Hello, everyone. Welcome to the inaugural session of the Device Authority Virtual Summit, centered around the theme Zero Trust in the Era of Artificial Intelligence. My name is Amit Rao, and I lead the sales and business development for Device Authority in Asia. And I'm based in the vibrant city of Bangalore. Today, our focus lies on the fascinating fusion of connected cars and generative AI and how it is revolutionizing the automotive industry. Now, generative AI is a facet of artificial intelligence renowned for its capacity to innovate, emulate human creativity, and really tackle intricate challenges, which holds immense promise when integrated in connected vehicles. So, this integration heralds a new era of possibilities, whether it be elevating safety standards, operational efficiency, and the overall driving experience to unprecedented heights. So, joining me today is Kaiwan Karimi, a distinguished figure in this industry. With over 3 decades of expertise spanning automotive, transportation, and telecom industries, Kaiwan has held pivotal leadership roles in business and product management. At Microsoft, he spearheads mobility partnership strategy, nurturing an ecosystem of solution providers in alignment with Microsoft mobility centric sales strategy. Additionally, Kaiwan leads the charge in OT cybersecurity solutions for Microsoft manufacturing and mobility. So today, he will take us through this enthralling realm where connected vehicles intersect with generative AI, reshaping the automotive landscape as we know it. Before we get started with our session, a bit of information for our audience here. There will be a Q&A session at the end, so you can ask your questions in the question widget, and we will queue them up and answer them at the end of the session. Without further ado, I'd like to pass it on to Kaiwan to enlighten us on this captivating topic. Over to you, Kaiwan.
Thank you so much for the introduction. It is a pleasure to be here, and I'm grateful for the opportunity to share with the audience our observation from the Microsoft perspective related to Gen AI and connected car. I've been in the industry for about 30 years, my first 12 years in the telecom space, the last 18 years in automotive and transportation and manufacturing. And so for today's talk, I'm gonna take a holistic point of view. Uh, a lot of times we ourselves at Microsoft, we don't realize the breadth of offerings and the combinations that really it's unique in the industry. We have the largest dataverse, largest footprint in the digital space globally. People use Windows and Office products and Power Platform, etc., which is a separate activity altogether. And we're a hyperscaler. We're fastest growing and one of the broadest uh, cloud infrastructure and service providers. Then we're a leading AI company. It's and I will get a little bit into that, but people always equate it's Gen AI started with ChatGPT, and in reality we've been at it for a much longer period of time, and we see a lot of activities from new product introductions with various co-pilots from our partners, and lots of activities by our customers in the industry. And then we're also the largest cybersecurity company in the world. So it usually when you see an announcement coming, it comes from one of those four different entities. But really, if you take a step back and holistically look at it for that one topic, you see the confluence of so many things happening simultaneously, some good, some bad, and some frankly ugly, as the industry is unfolding at the moment. So we'll get into it. So I'm going to start with Gen AI as a whole. Then I'm going to get into the automotive industry and why Gen AI is a game changer for automotive industry, and then the role of responsible AI and our approach to Microsoft's approach to AI, and finally um, some of the observations from RSA conference last week and some of the announcements that we had. And so, with that said, let's go ahead and start the first topic: Gen AI in the news. It is truly the you can see an announcement coming from a company today that doesn't have a notion of Gen AI in it. You can't at the same time, you can see in the news, regular publications, that there is something good or bad. In the most extreme sense, is not it's not highlighted. The um, uh, most frequently asked question for me, and I do every couple of weeks I do a session of some sort. Is Gen AI gonna get our job, take away our jobs? Lots of engineers are worried about it. Is Gen AI gonna take my job away? And so, at the same time, you see lots of people coming and claiming the extreme on the productivity side of it, as well as the extreme on the negative side of it. And so, and because it is such a noisy area, it's sort of a wild, wild west of, you know, people taking advantage of it. There are product announcements that I've seen that don't qualify as a sub feature in for other products where the claims are drastically higher than they should be. And on the negative side of it, I see things that are very dystopian. And in reality, the truth sits somewhere in the middle of that mush. So let's decouple all the noise from all the reality. All right. So because it's such a noisy space, it's also a lot of laws are passing. In the U.S., there is an aggressive push, and there are laws that are going to be passing by the Congress. Actually, within the U.S., already 40 states have certain laws in the book. In EMEA, as usual, very formal process, and I mean it in a good way. Formal is good. The moment the AI heated up, now you realize EMEA has had strong laws related to privacy and data protection for a while, but AI is all about data. So the moment that heated up, they passed the Data Act in January, followed by AI Act that just passed. And so this is one of those things. And when I was putting this logo up here, I wanted to get the message to everyone that this is one of those spaces that, because data is involved, and it doesn't matter whether it's in the US or in Europe, everybody is concerned about their data. It's all about AI, is all about data. And so potentially this is going to be a litigious space. So everybody needs to take attention, what they use, how they use it, what they produce. And so, with that said, uh, I wanted to bring up the example of in Silicon Valley. I remember we used to say, hey, if if an app is free, chances are you're the product. This is from a professor in Harvard Law, that if they say if something online is free, you're not the customer, you're the product. It is true, and we all have experienced it. All of our data is being collected by one app or another, and we gave our right to that data by clicking on those tiny little T's and C's on a screen, on a tiny little screen on your cell phone. And so that's been done. Let's move on. Now we're talking about Gen AI. Um, Make sure you pick the you carry this message forward, and you pick the right Gen AI with the right guardrails. Because in this case, um, if it comes to you for free and with no guardrails, its chances are it's your company's data that could become the product for someone else, and that is really important. And by the way, when you discuss this with a lot of C-level execs in automotive companies, um, close to 50% of them are worried about that. It's hey, if we let this in, is this what is it going to do to our company data? Are we exposing our IP to others? And remember, you don't program Gen AI. You feed it somebody's data, and that's the reason why they're worried about. So there are various versions of Gen AI out there in the market, and I compare them to the Excel version of them and the Wikipedia version of them. Excel is a great tool, has been around forever, and it does a lot of great work, but you have to provide the data for it to do the work. Whereas Wikipedia, you go over there, you open it up, it has everything you need, sort of, but it comes preloaded. It's what version of it, what flavor of it do you think you should be using, and that is the key, because when something comes preloaded with somebody's data, you need to make sure that where did that come from, whose data was used to preload it, and that fine subtle T's and C's, that small print that you're reading before you do the click through to access the models. What does it say really? Is that also going to abuse, and I'm using the word abuse, with your data or your company's data, as opposed to the Excel version of it, which is you have to load the models. You have to be careful what you load. So the emphasis goes on uh, data protection, data labeling, data governance within the company. But it is you who chooses what models to be fed, what data to be fed to the models. And just history being history, it's if I was going to use a Gen AI model, I would use the Excel model with guardrails that says, hey, I'm in charge of what data to feed it, versus the Wikipedia model version of it, because Wikipedia version of it is the one that if they use somebody else's data, are they going to use your data? You need to be careful, and that you would be the judge of it, but you need to be careful which version you pick. It is being used. I said, everybody thinks, hey, last summer was when Gen AI came into uh, the scene, and in reality, they've been at it for a long, long time, since 2016. And this is half people been adopting this, and has this been productive for them? Has this been successful? Well, the GitHub Copilot, which was the version we were working on, has been out there for about 4 years now, and these are the commentary from the users of GitHub Copilot. Almost 100%, 96% say they're faster with repetitive tasks. 88% say they're a lot more productive, and now they can leave the grunt work to the Copilot and focus on more satisfying tasks. And I go to back to the question that I get asked the most by engineers: hey, am I going to lose my job to Gen AI? And the answer is no. but you may lose your job to another engineer who has mastery of Gen AI and knows how to use Gen AI to be significantly more productive. And so there is some truth to that, but it's time for everybody in the industry to really learn this topic. Uh, as I will show you in automotive industry, it's a step function game changer. And so leverage the productivity that comes with it. And you need to go through skilling, enablement, etc. Um, take your organization through enablement of it. Pick the right flavor of it that does the right thing for your product development, for your organization, but make sure everybody is trained on it. And then there is a cyber angle to it that I'll bring. So, how about the productivity side of it? And on the productivity side of it, this is from GM using the GitHub Copilot. Um, and this is for a safety application, but they get 98% of the way code, still 2% of fine tuning by the developers. But 98% of the way means you don't have to worry about the compliance issue with the coding practices, with cyclomatic complexity, with did I turn on the compiler flags when I had to, etc., etc. So high productivity when you use the Copilot. Um, all right. Now let's go to the automotive part of it. So when you hear or when we talk about Copilot, what we mean is um, in the use of generative AI technology to help human beings with complex cognitive tasks. Just going back to the example that I showed from GitHub Copilot, repetitive tasks, the mundane grunt work. But the Copilot is not just the work that it does, which is you have the AI infrastructure and then the foundational models that are hosted and tuned for the different applications, and then your own models that you bring in. You need to go through a grounding exercise and filtering from a prompt and response perspective, and then the plugins that come. But within that whole context is AI safety. Uh, there are one may say more attention to the guardrails that you need to put in place, more governance, and that's when I get to the RSA conference findings. You'll see how important this aspect of this. By the way, we've done postmortem analysis on other models in the market that had caused security incidents, and you will see big part of this top part is missing, and it is really important to pay attention. Just as you pay attention to this bottom part on the models, you need to pay attention on the safety side of it. And so this is the Copilot stack that we talk about when we work with our customers and partners at Microsoft. Large ecosystem already working with us. And so it's a working with Gen AI, you need to do it in a secure and responsive way. And again, from our perspective, we internally we say Microsoft runs on trust, and the model that we promote is that Excel version of it. The data that's already preloaded is, the large language model, the areas that are not leveraging any customer or partner data. So when you use Azure and OpenAI services, your first of all, your version of it is completely isolated from any other customer. Your data is not and will never be to train foundational AI models for someone else, unless that's what your intention is, and it's your data is protected by the most comprehensive enterprise compliance and security controls. Again, as I mentioned, yes, we are providing Gen AI, and we are one of the leading companies in that space. We're also one of the largest, actually, we are the largest cybersecurity company in the world. And and I will show you the unique perch that we have in the data sphere, which allows us to see how the cyber criminals and nation states are using Gen AI in a negative way. Gives us a view of how do you combat some of the issues that are brewing in the industry on the negative side. And so the protection and the know-how we bring into the table, and the products and the guardrails we bring into the table is grounded with a much broader view than just an AI provider. So in automotive industry, there are four main, and I'll show you in a different chart examples of it. Really, it permeates itself in multiple additional ways, but it fundamentally it's around new customer experience, acceleration of product development. That this is so from a productivity gain, this is huge game changer. The core operation and back office productivity, and then um, really AI adoption at scale as a competitive differentiator between. I go back to, hey, train your workforce on it. Make sure you pick the right product. It is showing to be a competitive differentiator between our partners who have adopted the Copilot earlier versus later. These are the areas that we see from a Copilot experience working with our customers and partners. So across that V-shaped model, which in automotive being used for product development, that front end part of it, using the AI from a requirement capture and carrying that requirement then on the right hand side of the V-shaped model. The when you go through the test and you want to correlate it back to the requirement and traceability to where the requirements came from, and all the things that you do from a software development perspective, that is huge. That is the most bang for the buck that you can get right now that I see in the industry, and I will show you examples of it. Today in the Western society, quote unquote, whether it's North American automotive OEMs or Europeans, the biggest strategic challenge at the moment is their product development cycles are about 3.5 to 4 years. It used to be about, not too long ago, it was about 5 years. But people are changing, companies are changing. But you compare that to what's happening in China, which is 2 years, and they're targeting 18 months and they're targeting a year within the next couple of years. And so they need to cut it to a half. Now, like everything else in supply chain, when the Chinese companies put their hands on, in some areas, it has become the race to the bottom from profitability perspective. So while you preserve the brand equity and the profitability, how do you also compete on the development cycle? And so from an R&D perspective, we've been seeing the most bang for the buck coming up, and we have various environments and various activities in place now to help our partners and customers in this. Then it's from a production perspective and increasing the production efficiency by analyzing the data again, as we move through the reshape, and we go through the pilot program, and then you launch after your SOP, and you improve your process. Again, gains to be had, significant gains to be had, and by the way, it makes the system faster and much more efficient. Virtual customer assistant, which is chatbots from sales and marketing perspective. There we have a partner, NVIDIA, but also other partners that, if you look at some of their demos with their configurator, it's you can nowadays test drive a car, except the driving part of it, but really the dealer experience of um, how that car looks, how would it look in different environments, the look and feel under the dash, and the technology, etc. This has proven to be um, a very effective digital productivity gainer. Onboard AI assistance, again, lots of activities here. We made announcements with our partners, Cerence and TomTom, but there are lots of other activities that are happening also with our customers. That what's the most uh, what's the most intuitive way of communicating with a car is through your voice. In fact, the amount of time that car makers have been spending on reducing the hazard related to uh, taking away the attention of the driver by playing with the knobs, and the what happened when we switched from analog to digital with the screens, and then people getting comfortable with that motion. Move all of that away. Just talk to the car, and let the car assistant guide you in that way. And there are lots of actually YouTube videos that are out there by Mercedes and others that show the power of that digital assistant inside of the car. And then finally, remote maintenance and repair shops. That an additional area that is how wonderful it would be that the AI co-pilot is monitoring the operation of your car and can tell you well in advance of something, break it down that hey, it's based on the the noise that I'm hearing versus the baseline, or based on the readings that I have, whether it's electrical level or whether it's something digital. You should go and take the car to the dealer, get it fixed before it breaks down, in the middle of the trip. And so these are the areas that we see various activities happening from an automotive perspective. I mentioned the Mercedes. Please go ahead and um, look at the videos that they have online. They're pretty impressive. Um, this is from, and I'm going to show it to you. I mentioned about the, that V-shaped model and the R&D and the shrinking that time, that 4 years to about 2 years. One part of it is on the digital engineering side of it, and this is from an example from a live event that we had in Detroit on May 1st with NVIDIA Mobility Day, and we had Rescale GM on presenting, and this is what GM race car has adopted, and it's really let me uh, take it to the um, results is when they use an AI enabled probabilistic model versus CFD, or computational fluid dynamic simulation, which is typical for when you're doing these kind of stuff from a simulation perspective. They get 1,000x more acceleration, 98% accuracy. That's just phenomenal. And then 85% improvement in compute efficiency. It's a 1,000x is huge. These simulations are very, very large simulations. The kind of stuff that you go before the weekend and you load it up and you try to reserve the capacity for the workload. And so this is a massive, massive step function improvement that you go from. So the use of GPUs, yeah, give you 4x productivity, but the use of AI physics, which Rescale is working with our customers now, leveraging NVIDIA GPUs in 1000x is like you go from hours and minutes to milliseconds. So huge productivity gain again, as I mentioned. Responsible AI, our participations. So we were the first company to have human parity on vision, speech, and language. It took a few months after that for the next company in the world to get to the same position. They've been at it for a very, very long time. We were the first company also to offer, because we have the data guardrails in place, very easily we announced the product. We went out there and say, hey, we indemnify our customers and partners when they use our model, because the guardrails are in place. That was an easy thing for us to do. Um, we look at it from a principal practices. There are 17 different requirements across 5 different categories that needs to get satisfied. When I show you the Copilot, the stack that I showed you, and the filters and the standards to put in place, this is what we do. This is what we bring to the table, and we believe this is what it should be if you really care about uh, principles of transparency, accountability, fairness, safety, security, privacy, inclusiveness, etc. And we have actually, whether you use our models or not, we have a lot of tools, because we've been at it for such a long time. We have a lot of tools already, and a lot of best practices that you can go and leverage from an engineering practice and see if you're compliant, learn new tricks that you can apply to your work. So now comes the we went through the good part of it. Now let's look at it from a different angle. This is the part of from the benefit of the part of Microsoft that comes from being a largest player in the digital verse. Because of our breadth of the coverage, we witness and receive 78 trillion threat signals per day. 78 trillion. Pretty much everything that's happening out there, we get to watch it because of this perspective. Again, this is the part of the company that's related to the product side of it. And so with that, we're, we went ahead and we launched our Copilot for Security last year. And we said, okay, let us leverage the threat intelligence by the security part of the products, not this by the security product side of the house. And so far, it's been out there for a little bit over a year. And so how has it been? How has it played out? It does well with detection, incident graph completion. It's just like crazy how quickly it does that. Real-time incident disruption, anomaly detection from an XDR and SIEM perspective, and getting right in the middle of the kill chain. And then situational awareness as you do your posture management. And then let's see, we're right here, and let's see how it goes from 1+ year. We're in the era of adaptive reasoning and protection. So far so good. And it's maturing well, and the models are maturing well. Now, as I mentioned, the bad and the ugly part of it is AI and the AI productivity and tools. And it started with the regional tensions, Russia invading Ukraine, and then it got a mind of its own. It fundamentally has increased the speed and sophistication and scale of the attacks that the rest of the world has been experiencing. And again, one of the things that Big Perch gives us is the ability to monitor what is happening on the LLM and Gen AI side, and what type of uses are common criminal gangs and nation states APTs are getting out of the technology. And there are multiple blogs on Microsoft. I encourage you to go and look at them. And again, it's really important, the cultural transformation, training your employees on the culture of security, but also the culture of AI. Now it's the confluence of the two that you need to train your employees with. That's the first thing. That is the first thing any organization needs to do, is related to that training part of it. And it's one of the things that we saw is now the app stack is become a new attack surface from a Gen AI perspective. And so you look at your threat vectors now with application identity, endpoints, data, and cloud, and you bring in the Gen AI attack surface layered on the top of it with prompts and responses and AI orchestration and data and models and plugins. And now you see new risks and threats in form of prompt injection and jailbreak and risky contents, and the importance of AI regulation that comes into play, but new risk area that are showing up that you need to be careful. And so I jumped one, but again, so now the security part of it comes in, part of the company that we decided to add functionalities, and we announced it at RSA conference that you can discover AI attack surfaces with our new releases. You can protect your AI apps and sensitive data and govern AI usage related to code of conduct policies. And so um, we are announcing, and it's on our website, tools related to AI security posture management, AI workload protection, and compliance and assessment, and the hub, which you discover your data security and data compliance and risks. And again, I encourage everyone to go and take a look at it. This is happening so quickly, but again, because of the breadth of the different angles that Microsoft can approach this, we already have a protection mechanism put in place for it. I, with that said, I thank you very much for your attention, and I am ready to answer questions.
Thanks, Kaiwan. That was very insightful. And what really caught my eye was the way Copilot is going 90% of the way towards the complete code and addressing the compliance issues. Even the part where Copilot is enabling organization to shrink their R&D cycle significantly. So thanks for your insights. Um, and I also know that you're just back from the RSA conference in San Francisco, and you did mention that early on. But in reference to the fusion of connected cars and generative AI, what have you really heard of in terms of trends? What have you observed from the conference, and how do you think they'll shape up the future landscape?
So in today I showed you all the positive benefits that are related to Gen AI in automotive. It literally across the whole life cycle of the car, Gen AI is bringing positive productivity into the table. On the negative side of it is, cars are a mission um, um, critical infrastructure. Nobody looks at them that way. You say, oh, a nuclear power plant, or a particular bridge, or a grid. But cars are also a critical infrastructure. If a bad actor takes over remotely, which has been happening from a ransomware more often than uh, you like to hear about. And if somebody decides that, well, I'm going to do something worse, I'm going to do what physically the terrorists did in southern France in mid 2000s, take over the car and make something compelling happen um, in a negative way. Uh, they this is a 4 to 6 thousand pound entity that it can do a lot of damage, and so protecting the cars from an end-to-end perspective. Uh, One, it's new to the market, the more connected. So connectivity, and it's the same thing for cars and in manufacturing. When things get connected, they become visible. Visibility is a double-edged sword. Um, Visibility means also you can measure it and you can improve the processes it's going through, but also it gives access to bad actors remotely. And so being a critical infrastructure, the most readily available critical infrastructure that can turn into a weapon, it is a big thing. It is a so we're developing an end-to-end platform to address not only building security within the car as it goes through the production, but then managing the life cycle of security within that 15 to 20 years down the road. And think about it, 15 to 20 years is a long, long time, but you have to manage the life cycle of security while the car is on the road. And so we're actually partnering with you guys and a handful of, again, this is a team sport. Security is a team sport. We always say, and it's the ecosystem of partners that are working with us to bring this end-to-end infrastructure in place. And so on the automotive side of it, RSA doesn't have a lot of tracks related to automotive, but on the automotive side of it, lots of people talking about the need for compliance, the need for regulations. Europe has it. China is putting something in place. North America doesn't have it. North America is self notion of self certification and thou shalt not, which hasn't proven to be effective in other areas of automotive market. So cybersecurity is big enough that NHTSA need to take it a lot more seriously.
Absolutely. And like you said, it's a shared responsibility. So as we transition into the Q&A segment, we've been receiving some interesting questions from our audience. And let me just go through it. Yeah. So this one is Kaiwan for you. Is there the equivalent for privacy enhancing feature in Copilot for PII and PHI data? Somebody from the health care
For
industry.
for
Yeah.
for what data?
The PII.
They so again, as I said, there is equivalence in Europe uh, with their laws. There isn't necessarily in North America. From a you know, in health industry we have HEPA and all of that. In automotive, unfortunately, we don't. In fact, it's a at the moment a lot of the data that gets collected inside of the car about use cases, etc. It's not protected.
Okay. The next one is could you share insights into Microsoft's investments in platform tools within this domain and outline the roadmap?
So this is within this domain. If it's AI related, so this is actually we've been in the news for the amount of investment we're making around the world building the infrastructure for it. We announced pumping in about 3 billion in Germany, something equivalent in Spain, something equivalent in Japan. Um, we are investing all around the world from an infrastructure perspective. We've been added and the most largest advocate of putting governance around with regulations. We've been at it since 2016. Satya Nadella went in front of our Congress asking for regulations. Here we are, 2024. We still don't have it, but we have been going back and forth with bringing a coalition of industry techs to put governance in place. And from an R&D perspective, this is one of the biggest areas from a company as a whole. On the cybersecurity part of it, in
Yep.
the last 5 years, we spent 4 billion in R&D. In the next 5 years, we're spending over 20 billion in R&D because it's a for cybersecurity because things are getting worse, and there are certain problems that only a few companies with scale can address. And so we've taken over the charter of trying to do as much as we can to defend Western democracies as well as our partners and customers.
Thanks, Kaiwan. The next one is your thoughts on how generative AI could significantly contribute to improving safety measures in connected cars.
So it's again, it's let me give you an example of. So we've heard so far Gen AI from a text and speech perspective.
Right.
In autonomous vehicles, Gen AI can be again step function improvement. I watched a demo of one of our partners using Azure OpenAI for a scene description, which typically best in class right now. You look at two people on the street and you say, it says, person flat surface. That's the the from a data labeling and scene description, your session fusion algorithm for that autonomous drive. That's the description, and you apply this right out of the box, and they saw about 37% improvement, and the description went from person flat surface to a man and a woman dancing mamba on the side of the road. And again, if I look at it, I don't know how mamba looks like, but you see the details that it describes and how much faster, by the way, it did to get there. So lots of improvements from a perception perspective and acceleration of the development cycle on AV ops. The other part of it is on the development side of it, which from IS 26262 and safety side of it, HERA and TERA go hand in hand, especially when you're talking about cyber and mixed criticality from a safety perspective. And Gen AI is key to make sure you get it right from a compliance perspective for building safety and security in the cars during the development cycle.
Got it. Thanks. The next two questions, as I see it, are in the context of the Microsoft Device Authority partnerships. So the first question here talks about how does Device Authority Keyscaler fit into Microsoft's automotive platforms?
So it's a if you think about it from an identity management perspective. Today, lots of times when we're talking about identity management, we're talking about you and me. We're talking about people. When you move to IoT devices and manufacturing settings, it's sort of scale goes up by about there are 45 or so to one in IoT domains from an identity perspective, machines versus human beings. When you go to cars and you got multi VM architectures, you focus your shift now. You shift your focus. I'm sorry, from identity of the machines or known entities from an IC perspective to processes, and so to message exchanges to workloads, and so drastically increase in scale and the size of it. We partner with Device Authority on identity management and that whole key exchange. Think about that key rotation that's required for the 15 to 20 years for the life of the car. Level 3.5, level four and beyond levels of autonomy of cars. You're talking about 2,000 plus certs and credentials that needs to get managed for that 15 to 20 years. So this is a key. This is when you're talking about zero trust. Zero trust starts with identity, and so that's actually why we picked Device Authority as a partner is your capabilities in doing things at that scale.
Thanks for answering that question. And the other one was there has been some news about integration of CyberArk solutions, and this was around the CES. So, could you talk to the significance of Microsoft CyberArk and Device Authority partnership?
So again, from a protecting that entity, that car that now you saw bad actors can come into play, and they can leverage an AI to attack the car. It's the largest attack surface in the world, 150 million plus lines of cars. Every car is unique, and so that needs to get managed. And so we announced a partnership with Argus Security, with Device Authority, with CyberArk, and with TÜV and we have a couple of other partners now are coming on board. But bottom line, we've been working together since CES, and now we're adding more details. And so, both on the development environment side of it, as well as on the life cycle management side of it. And so we'll be announcing something soon that is would be the best in class end to end system with lots of copilot capabilities, I may add, uh, coming to the table from this for this end to end protection, to manage the life cycle of the security as well as posture of the car for its lifetime. And that's what we've been working on. So, more to come.
And looking forward to it. Okay, so any more questions? I think we've answered almost all of them. Yeah,
All
so
right,
we'll take
I'm reachable via email and on LinkedIn. And again, thank you very much for the opportunity, and I'm looking forward to the next sessions.
So I extend our gratitude to Kaiwan today for sharing his invaluable insights with us today. A big thank you to all our listeners for dedicating your time and attention for this discussion. With that, we draw this session to a close. Thank you once again, Kaiwan. And to all our listeners, until next time, take care and stay tuned for more insightful discussions still yet to come on the Device Authority Virtual Summit. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye bye.